Broadcasting across the YASS Valley, the ACT, and streaming online around the world. This is Thursday Live on YASS FM.
And joining us from Sydney is Darren McErlain. Darren, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, once that budget was delivered on Tuesday night, the first thing I thought of was going to be lots of belts being tightened. But I guess, in fairness to any government of the day, the first thing that went through my mind, whether it would have been if it was Labor or Liberal, it's a breach of trust. They've just brought anxiety to the nation, and Australia has gone into some sort of mateship revolution where they're all trying to work out where are they going to get the funds from to deal with all these budget cuts. So I guess that was my first reaction.
And he's targeting the most vulnerable people, isn't he?
That's right. It does make me wonder why they do target those people, the disadvantaged and the poor. They're voting Australians just like everybody else. And I guess when they start to, it's one thing to increase the taxes, but just as we heard on the news this evening with Joe Hockey remarking on the $7 fee for going to the doctor as it's less than 2 minis and things like that. It just makes you wonder: are they taking a humanitarian approach to this?
Well, paying $7 every time certainly isn't it? It's just going to cost people more.
It will, and I think as time goes on, people will realise that as they pay for the doctor, yes, it's a necessity. Something else is going to have to go. It's that opportunity cost. They will forego something.
And the family tax benefit, now that's huge. For families, family tax benefit B will be cut for those earning over $100,000 a year or once the youngest child turns 6. That's just wrong, isn't it?
It's certainly going to force a lot of people, I guess, will they get more work with the current employer? Where are they going to go to get that extra funding to pay to get a bigger disposable income to buy those goods and services? Where is that money going to come from? And I guess, yes, they can go off and get a second job or something like that, but that's just putting more pressure on families.
Exactly right. And pensioners, they've raised the pension age to 70. We're all going to be working longer. It's just they're targeting everybody. They can't do anything about it, basically.
That's right. I mean, just on, I think, Studio 10 on Channel 10 yesterday, there was Vilma. There's been lots of publicity about her, and she went on television saying, I've never heard such rubbish in all my life. And I guess it did make people think, well, if the senior people are affected by this, they're the ones with the knowledge and the experience. They've seen lots of governments come and go, and if they're suddenly feeling the pinch, is there something going wrong? This is the Australia that they've paid taxation towards the economy and towards a great country, and now suddenly the end of as they get into their senior years, they're now not getting that benefit, which is very unfortunate.
Worked their whole lives for nothing, basically, and to be robbed from and lied to.
Very disappointing, absolutely.
And students as well. So the opposite generation, the deregulation of university and TAFE fees, decreasing government funding, that will force the HECS payments to have to pay back sooner and with more interest. And universities and institutions such as those will be eligible to charge their own fees, and heaven forbid what they will charge.
That's right. I mean, the cuts to uni education, there seems to be a little bit of a pattern there. That the Liberal government came in, they were elected 7th of September last year. They do have the mandate to govern, but unfortunately there does seem to be a pattern with the Liberal government to cut funding to the universities. Back in 1996, when I was at university, I was an intern at the ABC at the time, and the funding cuts came through. There were government protests in Parliament House. There were ABC journalists going out on strike. I was there as a young intern in the newsroom writing the news, and there was talk that I'd have to go on and present the news. It's all these budget cuts that come together, and it's all to do with cutting the funding. And it does make you wonder, why do they associate these cuts with education? This is the cuts to TAFE, the cuts to uni. This is the future of Australia. If we're trying to improve the nation, surely those are the things that would get more funding, not less.
That's exactly right. And what about high income earners? The deficit levy and tax, they will have to pay 2% for those earning above 180,000. So ultimately, that's a tax for high income earners. Is that right?
I guess it's one of those things where we need to look at those progressive taxes. We need to make sure that if we're going to tax Australians, that they can afford to pay that. And I guess we've always had that very good schedule. And as you earn more income, you go up the schedule, you pay more.
Yes.
And I suppose if they're the ones above 180,000 with more disposable income, surely they're the ones that, if they've got the money, they should be paying the taxes. It's just you've just got that vicious circle happening. That's right.
That's exactly right. And Jess made the point earlier that, you know, they're working harder for their money, but that may not necessarily be the case.
That's right. And I think with the cuts to things like small businesses, it's the small businesses that keep the big businesses in tow, and it's the big government and the big businesses that work together to boost that economy. And as soon as we start deflating that economy, we start to have less spending, and the jobs are no longer in demand. So if people are now being forced to go and look for employment, I'm just hoping that we've got the jobs out there.
Oh, and we don't. That's the thing. And it's all coming back to jobs. There aren't any jobs for people. People are being laid off more so than ever. The unemployment rate's at its highest. Youth unemployment, that's a serious problem, isn't it, Darren?
That's right. I think we'll never get to a perfect unemployment rate of 0%. There'll always be that hidden unemployment level out there in the economy, but it's always good to strive for, and it gives us all hope, I suppose. And perhaps this is one of the things that I can try and put to the Treasurer, Joe Hockey, on Monday night when I'm in the audience of Q&A, and perhaps this is one of the things that I can say to him. Look, what's going to happen with the people of all ages who suddenly now need to look for employment elsewhere? Who's going to support these people who suddenly have to go from unemployment benefits to nothing? So it's a little bit of a worry.
Darren, I was just wondering if there's anything from this budget that you think is positive, like it's a good cutback or something.
Look, I think the most positive thing I heard was towards the end of the speech, and I think just from memory, I think it was something like 200 billion for medical research.
20 billion, yeah.
Yeah, 20 billion. That's a good thing. That's going to improve the health of our nation. But and the Treasurer mentioned a few things about curing cancer, but I was very, very disappointed that there was no mention of a cure for diabetes and extra funding going into the research of that. So, I mean, I guess perhaps it's on the agenda, but I'm just wondering why wasn't that mentioned in the Parliament on Tuesday night? And I guess we're all about to hear the right of reply in 50 minutes. Perhaps we'll get some hope from the other side.
That's right. That's the inevitable, and I think they're just focusing on what they can suck from everyone. Look, Darren, thanks very much for joining us this evening, and have fun at Q&A next week.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'll be watching.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Good night.